All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Saturday morning, and I wanted to take my time before, kind of give myself some time before I did this. You see, I want to explain something to a certain individual, as well as several other individuals that just, it seems they just don't get it, if you will. And I'm trying to be nice as best as I can, trying to be respectful. I'm trying to get them to understand something. You see, this individual asked me basically why I keep reading other people's entries, if you will, from other sites, other Sonic related sites and all that. Well, let me explain. I do it because I want to help share the thoughts and opinions of these individuals. You see, because you see, what really gets me is how ridiculous this whole scenario is. I mean, when you take a look at this 2 year arc, a lot of people don't like it, and there's a lot of people that do. And it's like they just can't come out and say, okay, out of respect, please explain why you don't like it. Or on the other hand, or on the other hand, you have people that won't come out and say, hey, okay, explain why you like it, and we'll understand. It's like they just can't sit back, have a regular discussion, kind of like a debate, whatever you want to call it, and say, well, this is why I like it, and here's why, or here's why I don't. This is why I don't like it, and here's why. You know, it's like they just can't be civil about it. And what's funny, and what intrigues, well, not what's funny, but what intrigues me is when I read these opinions is basically how some people feel about it. On one side, you've got a lot of people who like the story, who like, what's going on, who like the development of the characters and how things are working out and all this and that. But then on the other hand, you have people that don't like what's going on because they feel as though there's a lot of inconsistency and there's a lot of plot holes. So again, to me, it's like it's like these fans just cannot sit back and have a civil discussion, and just say, this is why I don't, basically go along the lines of saying something like, okay, look, I understand that you guys like it, but let me explain why I don't like it, and be respectful about that. Or on the other hand, have on the other hand, have people go like, hey, I understand some of you guys don't like it, but here's why I like it. And what's funny about that is, instead of being civil about it and kind of understanding, you got people kind of arguing back and forth. You know, I came out years ago, a couple of years when this started, and I came out and I stated that as a Sally fan, I was always so used to seeing Sally act a certain way. Despite who the writer was, I always was used to seeing her act a certain way, act like the Sally character that I knew from the Saturday AM cartoon and throughout most of the run of the comic. And that, to me, I could not, personally, as a fan, I could not get used to the fact of seeing her and hearing her say, seeing her act, seeing her the way she had become, and seeing her say and act the way she was. Even though storyline wise, the character was acting and saying things that they normally wouldn't say because they were roboticized. They didn't have control over what they were saying. But again, even with that, I just could not. I just cannot. As personally as a fan, I could not see that. I could not get used to seeing that character, that, believe it or not, iconic character of the franchise, that iconic non-game character, non-game character of the franchise, say and act the way she was. I could not see that. I couldn't. Now, I have admitted that yes, I had seen her roboticized before in issue 29, but what was funny about that is issue 29, her roboticization only lasted about less than less than 8 pages, basically about 6 pages or so, and that was it. Mainly almost like 6 pages. But again, when she was roboticized in that, you pretty much. I mean, when she was roboticized in that, you pretty much knew she was going to be okay, because when you saw how she was roboticized there, she was roboticized basically into a robotic version of her original design, with her original her original second season vest design. That's what she was roboticized as. But me personally as a fan, like I said, I could not get used to seeing her acting and saying the things she was saying throughout this arc. I mean, to be quite honest, if there was some kind of a hint and a clue that perhaps she had a little free will back, perhaps she was regaining a little bit of a free will, where maybe she'd kind of acknowledge, kind of hint around, give a clue to maybe Sonic or Tails and Amy that, hey, I'm okay, I'm here, I just got to do this to, I'm still here, I'm still inside, I'm just, trying my best to, keep Eggman busy, make him think certain things or whatever, or just give him some kind of hint that she's fighting for control. Then maybe I would have taken the time to open up a page of the comic. But again, like I said, personally as a fan, I just could not see her acting that way. I could not see her saying certain things that normally she wouldn't say, because she wasn't in control of her actions. Now, I understand some of you will say, well, Brian, that's part of the story. That's what makes it intriguing. That makes you want to read it and see what happens next. And I agree. But to me, I'm going to wait. That was my promise, and I'm a person of my word. I'm going to wait. And if I said I'm going to wait, I'm going to wait to 252 to open up all those issues that came before the crossover. To open up all those issues before the crossover came to be. Then that's what I'm going to do. I never said. Now let me kind of make something perfectly clear. I never said I wasn't going to open the issues of the crossover, because let's be honest. We didn't know about the crossover until last year. None of us did. None of us knew about the crossover until last year. We knew what was going on with Sally before then, but we didn't know about the crossover until last year. So the crossover, believe it or not, is the exception. It is. Now you might say, well, what about Endangered Species? Endangered Species is still part of the same story arc. It's a subplot in the story arc, so that still counts. That still counts despite its problems. But the point is, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a man of my word. And with the exception of the crossover issues, this main arc before it, along with 252, where I will finally open it, are the only ones I have yet to open. And as a matter of my word, when 252 marks the end of this story arc, only then will I open every single one of those issues. I will. I will film it. I will film myself opening them. I will film myself looking at them, reading them. So that way you guys will know I'm a man of my word. But again, that's why I sometimes read. But again, getting back to the topic at hand, that is why I read some of these journal entries. This is why I read some of these, replies and rebuttals at message boards and all that. Because it's just so crazy that people just can't be civil about what's going on and say, okay, here's why I like, basically, like I said earlier, kind of be like, okay, I understand you guys don't like what's going on, but here's why I like it. Or, okay, I understand you guys like it, what's going on, but here's why I don't like it. And be civil about it. Don't be like, oh, well, this is going on, and that's going on, and blah, 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 blah. No. It's basically being civil about what is happening in the story arc. Now, I'm not saying this fan base is the only fan base out there that acts like that. It's not. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are fans of several Marvel comic titles, like Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, X-Men, whatever, that are back and forth, are in agreement and disagreement about what's going on. Fans of DC comics like Superman and Batman and Justice League and Wonder Woman that are back and forth about what's going on there too. But you see, the fact is, they can go back and forth themselves. And maybe I'm wrong, but from what I've heard and seen at times, they seem to be a little bit more civil at times than what I've seen here at the Sonic fan base. And I'm not trying to be mean, I'm not trying to be critical, it's just what I've seen and heard. Now again, maybe I'm wrong, and if I am, you can correct me, because I know there are several Sonic comic subscribers that are comic subscribers of several Marvel and DC titles. But the point is, ladies and gentlemen, I read these because what's ironic about it is, even though I think everybody should at least take time out and think about what they're saying and try to be more civil and respectful to each other, what's funny about it is you have more negative reaction to what's going on than you do positive. And I'm not saying there isn't more positive out there. There is. I've seen it. But there hasn't been as much positive as there's been negative. I mean, the negative by the fans has basically outweighed the positive. I mean, Mixed Fan, the Media Man, aka Mixed Fan 8643, along with the likes of Bo Skunk, in Ezekiel 3, and maybe let's say Ezekiel 3000, are the only ones so far that I know of that have shown a lot of positiveness towards the story arc. Just some of the notable names. And I'm pretty sure there are some at the Bumble King forum as well, but again, you you take what you see at the Bumble King forums, you take what you look at some of what you see in the Stadium, Sonic Stadium, and the Sega forums, and even at DeviantArt. And I hate to say this, but from what I've seen personally, in my opinion, I have seen more negative reaction than positive. I've seen more negative review than I've seen positive. And like I said, Mixfan 8643, Bo Skunk, Ezekiel 3000, and whoever else out there, whether it's at Bumble King, the Sega forums, Sonic Stadium, or even at DeviantArt, it seems that their positiveness gets outweighed by the negative. And that's why every time I share the opinions of fans, it's always been the negative ones. And honestly, I don't like doing that. I mean, here's the thing. Digimon 11 is a fan who's also listening to this. He's one of them that you can put alongside those that I mentioned that look at the story arc in a positive way. But here's the deal. The positiveness, again, along with the other names that I've mentioned, along with anybody else at the Bumble King forums, the Sega forums, the Sonic Stadium, and even DeviantArt, and even Toon Zone, gets outweighed, but from what I have seen, from those that have given the story arcs a negative reaction. I mean, to be quite honest, those that give it a negative reaction, they look at the whole Mecha Sally World Tour 2 Death Egg Mark II story arc as nothing but one big, and excuse my language, but one big clusterfuck. I mean, and here's the thing. They've seen potential in the story arc to be good. It's like they're willing to accept the fact that Sally got roboticized. They're willing to accept that she got turned into a modified, weaponized version of herself. They're willing to accept that if it was done correctly, if it was done to make Sally in her roboticized, mechanized form more of a threat than she is. Because basically, from what they have seen, is Sally basically attacking a village, and this is the way they look at it. Sally attacking a village along with some bots, and then after Sonic and Tails and Amy, Team Fighters, or Team Sega as they call it, comes down and stops the bots and fights. One of them fights Sally for a little bit. Sally takes off, and then the next issue, it's you rinse and repeat in the next issue. In the following issue, rinse and repeat. That's basically what they feel has been going on. And they said that the only time she's been a legitimate threat now was just recently with 247. And that was it. So you can understand why those that have a negative reaction have come out at times in some of their responses and some of their entries and reviews and have said, hey, she had the potential to be a threat, but it's always rinse and repeat. It's always rinse and repeat. This is honestly, I can probably understand that they are hoping probably for an explanation if she gets restored. Like, let's say Ian writes down something of Sally saying, hey, I had a little bit of control, that's why I ran away, because I didn't want you guys to, I wanted you guys to focus more on what was important, and that was saving people. So, hopefully we get some kind of an explanation like that or something. But again, like I said, though, when you take a look at something like that from their perspective, it's rinse and repeat, and they don't like that rinse and repeat motif. They don't like it. They wanted something that would make a legitimate threat. I mean, heck, one artist at DeviantArt drew a picture of Mecha Sally in ultra I mean, really ultimate ultra form. And they pretty much say this would be more legitimate for Mecha Sally to be a threat. When you take a look at this, you would say, oh, that. When you take a look at this, and the person's name is, I think, Ace of Speed. Ace of Speed. I can't think of the name, the other part of the name, but I'll provide a link down below if I can find the picture. But basically, when I looked at this and everybody else looked at this, they basically said that if Ian Flynn was to do that with Sally, or would have done that with Sally towards the end, or even during this arc, that would have been proving that she was definitely a legitimate threat in her mechanized form. But that didn't happen yet, as far as we know. But still, the point is that the fact that in their eyes it's rinse and repeat is basically what's causing them to have a negative reaction. And yes, of course, Sally being weaponized and roboticized and supposedly gutted, according to others, which I don't think she was, doesn't help either. It doesn't help either. But again, that's why at times, whether you want to look at it whether you want to look at it this way or not, the positive has been getting outweighed by the negative. I mean, I know there's a lot of positiveness out of the story. I do. I have come out and I have talked about the positiveness, not just courtesy of somebody else, but also myself. I've talked about the positiveness. I did a video on that, like when this whole thing first started. I did a video on it. And I have agreed. Heck, I did another video on it. And I agree, the positiveness is character development, not just for Sally, but for all the characters involved. Bunny Rabbit, Nicole, the members of the Secret Freedom Fighters, even some of the game characters, if they can get some development, as some people are hoping for. You have all that positiveness there. And watch the video, and you'll hear what I have to say. But again, like I said, I too look at the positiveness, but the point is, just because I said I wasn't going to read the issues doesn't mean I wasn't going to keep in touch with what was going on, because I am. I am keeping in touch. But like I said, and this is just me personally as a fan, I just can't get you I cannot get used to the fact of seeing the Sally Acorn character acting the way she is right now, even if she is not under, storyline wise, even if she's not under her own control, even though she doesn't have a free will, I cannot see her acting and doing things the way she's doing. That's just me. And like I said, I accepted what happened in issue 29 way back. But that was only because her robotization there lasted about 6 pages, and that was it. The point is, 6 to 8 pages, and that was it. The point is, though, I read people's entries, I read the reviews, I read what they have to say to keep up with what's going on. I do. And believe me, you think I'm the only one that doesn't open an issue of a comic that they're subscribed to because of what's happened? Of course I'm not. You think I'm the only one that's saying, hey, I'm going to wait till this whole thing blows over, then I'm going to read every single issue and then give an overall review? Of course I'm not. There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of people like that out there. So I'm not the only one. So to those that wonder why I do this, hopefully this helped you guys out. Because this is why I do it. This is why I do it. And again, I know a lot of people don't agree with what I say. There's not a lot of people that will agree with what the other people say of the entries that I read. But I'm helping to spread the word and help get out other people's opinions, positive or negative. So that's all I'm going to say on it. Hopefully this explained why I do what I do. And thank you all for listening and have a good Saturday.